and I'm going to show you how to make crumble topping by hand. No food processor involved. You'll have to apologise for my nails because they're long. Yours shouldn't be too long when you're doing this. 200 grams of butter. Now look at the butter. That's too big, so this needs to be chopped small. I'm going to use the butter paper to cut this on into small pieces like this. Because if you're doing this by hand, it needs to be small. But I'm keeping my hands out of it as much as I can. This, Paddy's behind me making the tea. This is one of his favourite desserts ever. There you go. It's a good one. And the reason I used to make crumble was because I didn't know how to make Mommy's pastry. But now I do, so I make both. Thanks for the tea, honey. Or you can do it like this. But this is very much a hands-in, hands-on job. Just so you know. Now don't stress if your butter gets a little bit warm, because I tend to put this back in the freezer before I use it, and I keep it in the freezer. So this amount is going to make more crumble topping than you need for this little dessert this evening. And that is the trick, that you keep it in a container in the freezer, and then somebody's coming, you go, oh, I have some crumble topping, I can make a little crumble. I have a few apples, or I have a bit of rhubarb, or I have some plums, or I have some gooseberries, and it's there waiting. Do I use the same crumble topping for all of them? Actually, I do. Sometimes if I know I'm making it for rhubarb and it's rhubarb season, I'll put ginger in, but normally I don't. I just put mixed spice into it. And there is your butter in small pieces. Clean your hands, and back we come onto our weighing scales again, because now I'm going to put in my flour. Just so you know, if your fruit is pre-cooked, then you can put on the crumble at 180 and it'll take less time to cook because your fruit is already done. But if I'm making a crumble from scratch and my berries or my rhubarb is either frozen or freshly cut, I always put this at 150 and I cook it for an hour. So when you think about quantities for this recipe, it's easy to remember, because if you have two, it's 2, 3, 1. So 200 butter to 300 flour to 100 sugar. And if you think of it like that, that means you can make 20, 30, 10 grams, or you can make 40, 60, 20 grams. Too much maths? Sorry. How do we make this? And this is how you do it for your scones as well, and this is how you do it for your pastry if you don't have a food processor. So you lift the flour along with the butter and you squeeze between your index finger and your thumb. So you're squeezing the butter. And when you're squeezing the butter, you are trying, look, watch this, you're trying to squash the butter and cover it with flour. And that's it. So a light touch, not heavy, that's it. And that's the technique. Now, if I'm doing this for scones, or I'm doing this particularly for pastry, I would always put this back into the fridge for 15 or 20 minutes so that my butter gets cold. This is why the pieces are small. Otherwise, it would take much longer. So now you see, as the texture becomes more biscuit-like. So can you see that? It's kind of like a crumbed biscuit. So look, just, so you put your hands in. Definitely need clean hands for this. So that took me about 4 minutes. And that is the texture you want at the end. You're making sure that you've got all that flour mixed through with the butter. So there is my texture, okay? That's it done. And now I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients for my crumble. Add a good teaspoon of mixed spice to that. I'm using a spoon to mix at this point. How do I know I have enough mixed spice in? I can smell the mixed spice from here. Then back onto my weighing scales. 100 grams of Demerara sugar. This one here, really nice. Why Demerara? Because there are crystals in it and it makes for a beautiful flavour. So that's just 100 grams of Demerara and 100 grams of porridge. Don't use the jumbo oats, they're too big a texture for this. That is my crumble topping. There you go. So that bowl is about 5 by 7 inches, And because I don't have any sugar in that at the moment, I'm just going to add some Demerara on top. Normally I would let this sit in the freezer, but today I'm not. I'm just going to put it on top. Now watch, you literally just spoon it on top. You create a nice topping. I like to give it a good coating. I'm only using about a quarter of the crumble topping that I made. It's not much at all. Because this apple is cooked before, I'm going to put that straight into the oven at 180 fan for round about half an hour. I'm going to check it and see how it does. And that should cook very nicely for us. If the apple was uncooked underneath, I would grate the apple in, I would add the sugar, and then I would cook it at 150 fan for a whole hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes, to give those apples time to cook. Today we don't need that. Here we go.